At 80 years old, living in the single coldest inhabited place on Earth, Bella knew the rule. But a strange cry in the killing frost forced her out. What she dug out of that snowbank wasn't just a tragedy, it was a miracle that would threaten her life and test the limits of survival. This is the story of the rescue in the ice. The thermometer on the porch of the log cabin read -54 degrees Celsius, -65.2 degrees Fahrenheit. In Oymyakon, a remote village in the heart of Yakutia, Siberia, this was not weather. It was a physical weight. Here, your breath didn't just mist. It crystallized instantly. Bella Volkov sat in her rocking chair, her knuckles white as she gripped a mug of tea that was already losing its heat. At 80 years old, Bella was a relic of this land. Her parents had been ethnic Germans, exiled here decades ago, but she had stayed, carved out of the same stubborn timber as the taiga forest surrounding her. She lived alone now. Her husband, Karl, had passed 10 years ago, leaving her with the silence, the crackle of the wood stove, and the terrifying vastness of the Siberian winter. Outside, the wind wasn't howling, it was screaming. A blizzard had descended 3 days ago, burying the village under 2 meters of snow. The radio had warned that the temperature was expected to drop further tonight, approaching the historic lows that could freeze machinery and snap steel. Bella shifted her shawl, the wool rough against her neck. She was about to rise to add another log to the stove when she heard it. It was faint. So faint that she initially dismissed it as the wind whistling through the gaps in the eaves. But then it came again, a sound distinct from the hollow roar of the storm. It was a high-pitched, desperate whine, followed by a low, guttural moan. Her heart hammered a chaotic rhythm against her ribs. Wolves, it had to be. The packs grew bold in deep winter, coming close to the cabins to sniff out trash or livestock. Bella reached for the heavy iron poker by the fireplace. She waited. Yip. Yip. Howl. Bella frowned. That wasn't the blood-curdling call of a predator. It sounded. Against every instinct of self-preservation, against the aches in her arthritic knees and the terrifying reality of the temperature outside, Bella stood up. She moved to the frosted window, scraping a small circle in the ice with her fingernail. She saw nothing but a swirling wall of white violence. "You are a fool, Bella," she whispered to herself. But she couldn't ignore it. The sound tore at something maternal and ancient deep inside her chest. She began the ritual of dressing. In Yakutia, you don't just put on a coat. It is armor. First, the thermal woolens. Then the fleece trousers. The heavy felt boots, Valenki, that went up to her knees. A scarf wrapped 3 times around her face, leaving only a slit for her eyes. Finally, the massive sheepskin coat that weighed nearly as much as she did. She grabbed a heavy-duty flashlight and the iron poker. Pushing the door open required her full body weight. The wind hit her like a physical blow, a solid wall of ice that sucked the air from her lungs. The cold here was aggressive. It sought out every gap in your clothing, stinging exposed skin like acid. She stepped off the porch, immediately sinking to her thighs in fresh drift. The beam of her flashlight cut a pathetic cone through the swirling snow. "Hello?" she shouted. But the wind swallowed her voice instantly. She waited. The sound came again, to her left, near the old, collapsed woodshed she hadn't used in years. Bella waded through the snow, her 80-year-old heart straining. Every step was a battle. The air was so cold her eyelashes began to freeze together. She reached the woodshed, the flashlight beam sweeping over the debris. Nothing. Just snow and broken timber. She turned to leave, her chest heaving, convincing herself it was a hallucination. Not white, not grey, but a dark, matted amber. Bella squinted. It looked like a discarded fur coat half buried in a drift against the shed's remaining wall. She took a step closer, and the coat moved. It was a dog. A large, mixed-breed shepherd, curled into a tight, impossible ball. The animal was mostly covered in snow, its fur matted with ice. It wasn't moving its head. It was just staring at Bella with one visible, amber eye that held no aggression, only a profound, devastating resignation. "Oh, you poor soul!" Bella gasped, the words lost in her scarf. She reached out to touch the dog, to see if it could stand. The dog let out a low rumble, not a growl, but a warning. The animal shifted slightly, wincing in agony. That was when Bella saw them. Tucked underneath the mother's belly, shielded from the lethal wind by her freezing body, were tiny, squirming shapes. 1, 2, 3, maybe more. Newborns. They couldn't have been more than 2 days old. The realization hit Bella with the force of the blizzard. This mother had chosen not to seek shelter for herself because she couldn't move her babies. She had laid down in the snow, curling her body around them, literally freezing to death to act as a living heater for her pups. The mother dog's eye began to close. Her breathing was shallow, jagged. She was in the final stages of hypothermia. If Bella left them to go get help, which was miles away, they would be dead in 10 minutes. Bella looked at the cabin, 50 yards away through the blinding snow. It felt like 50 miles. Okay, Bella grunted, the adrenaline surging through her veins, temporarily masking the pain in her joints. Not today. Not on my watch. The immediate problem was physics. The mother dog was large, easily 30 kilograms, 66 pounds, of dead weight, plus the ice matting her fur. Bella dropped to her knees in the snow, ignoring the biting cold seeping through her trousers. She reached for the puppies first. If she could get them inside, she could come back for the mother. She reached under the mother's belly. The dog didn't snap this time. She was too weak. Bella's gloved hand touched a tiny velvet body. It was cold, too cold. She scooped up the first puppy, a black and white scrap of life. She shoved the puppy deep inside her sheepskin coat, against her chest, praying her body heat would restart its heart. She reached for the second, then the third. There were 4 of them. She stuffed 3 inside her coat, zipping it up as far as it would go. The 4th, the runt, she had to hold inside her scarf against her neck. "Stay with me," she hissed. She looked at the mother. The snow was already covering the dog's snout again. If Bella left her now to run the puppies to the cabin, the mother's heart would stop before she returned. The bond was the only thing keeping the mother alive. Take the puppies, and the mother would let go. Bella knew she had to take them all. Now, she looked around frantically. Her eyes landed on a piece of corrugated plastic roofing that had blown off the shed during a storm years ago. It was partially buried, jagged and frozen, but it was shaped like a toboggan. Bella clawed at the snow, ripping the plastic sheet free. She dragged it over to the dog. "Come on, girl. You have to help me," Bella begged. She grabbed the dog by the scruff and the hindquarters. With a heave that summoned strength she hadn't used since she was a farm girl hauling grain, she rolled the semi-conscious dog onto the plastic sheet. The mother whined, a sound of pure agony. Her back leg was twisted at an odd angle. A fracture. That explained why she hadn't moved. She had been hit by a car or a plow and dragged herself here to give birth, unable to walk further. Bella grabbed the front edge of the plastic sheet. The wind roared, knocking Bella sideways. She stumbled, falling face first into the snow. The cold burned her cheeks. She wanted to lie there. It would be so easy to just close her eyes. No. Carl would never forgive you. She scrambled up, grabbing the makeshift sled. She began to pull. The wind was blowing directly against her. Every step was a war. 1 step, 2 steps. The plastic dragged over the uneven drifts, snagging on hidden roots. The mother dog was slipping off. Bella stopped, gasping for air that felt like broken glass in her throat. She adjusted the dog, tucking the animal's tail in. "We are going to make it," Bella wheezed. She was halfway to the cabin when the second twist happened. Through the howling wind, a new sound cut through the air. Bella froze. She shone her flashlight toward the tree line. Barely 10 meters away, 2 pairs of eyes reflected the beam. Yellow, intelligent, hungry. Wolves. They hadn't been making noise. They had been hunting. They had smelled the blood of the birth and the weakness of the dying mother. Bella dropped the sled handle and gripped the iron poker she had shoved into her belt. Her heart rate skyrocketed, fluttering dangerously in her chest. She was an 80-year-old woman with a metal stick against 2 apex predators who had evolved to kill in this weather. The first wolf, a gaunt grey male, stepped out of the shadow. He lowered his head, a low growl rumbling from his throat. Bella stood her ground, spreading her feet wide despite the deep snow. She roared, not a scream of fear, but a guttural shout of rage. "Get back!" She swung the poker, hitting the metal side of her flashlight. Plang, the sharp, unnatural sound startled the wolf. I said, "Get back! You will not have them." She took a step toward the wolf, swinging the poker violently through the air. Most prey runs. Prey that attacks is confusing. The wolf hesitated, looking at his packmate in the trees. They were hungry, but they were also cautious. This two-legged creature was loud and aggressive. Bella didn't wait for them to decide. She turned back to the sled, grabbed the plastic with one hand, kept the poker raised in the other, and pulled. She didn't run, she couldn't, but she moved with a desperate, frantic energy. She didn't look back. She could feel their eyes on her back, waiting for her to fall. If she fell, they would be on her before she could stand. 10 yards. 5 yards. She reached the porch stairs. The wolves were still at the edge of the light. Watching, getting the dog up the 3 wooden stairs was the hardest part. Bella had to drop the poker. She grabbed the plastic sheet with both hands, bracing her foot against the doorframe, and hauled with everything she had left. The plastic scraped over the wood. The mother dog slid onto the porch. Bella kicked the door open, dragged the sled over the threshold, and slammed the heavy timber door shut, throwing the deadbolt. She collapsed on the floorboards, the puppies squirming inside her coat, the mother dog lying motionless on the plastic sheet. The room was warm, smelling of pine and tea, but Bella couldn't stop shaking. She unzipped her coat, her trembling hands pulling out the puppies. 1, 2, 3, 4. She laid them on the rug by the stove. The mother dog didn't move. Her amber eye was closed. Bella crawled over to her, putting a hand on the dog's chest. There was no rise and fall. "No," Bella whispered, tears finally spilling over, hot tracks on her frozen face. "No, you didn't fight this hard to die in the warmth." Bella began chest compressions on the dog, her frail hands pushing against the matted fur. "Breathe," she commanded. The cabin was silent except for the roar of the fire and the rhythmic thump-thump of Bella's hands on the dog's ribcage. 1 minute passed. Then 2. Bella's arms burned. Her own breath was coming in ragged gasps, her 80-year-old heart fluttering dangerously in her chest like a trapped bird. She was exhausted beyond measure, the adrenaline of the wolf encounter fading into a crushing fatigue. "Come on," she gritted out, sweat dripping from her nose onto the dog's matted fur. Suddenly, a spasm racked the dog's body. A wet, hacking cough erupted from the animal's throat, followed by a sharp intake of air. Bella scrambled back, sitting on her heels. The dog's amber eye flew open, wide and terrified, scanning the room wildly before landing on Bella. "That's it," Bella soothed, her voice trembling. The dog tried to lift her head but collapsed back onto the rug. She was alive, but barely. The hypothermia was deep. Bella knew that warming her up too fast would send the dog into shock and stop her heart again. Bella went into survival mode. She ignored the pain in her own back and the dangerous numbness in her own fingers. She grabbed every towel she owned. She began to vigorously rub the dog's legs and torso, stimulating blood flow. She heated bone broth on the cast-iron stove, using a turkey baster to dribble warm liquid into the side of the dog's mouth. The dog swallowed. It was a victory that felt bigger than winning the lottery. But then, a high-pitched squeal pierced the air. The puppies. They were waking up on the sheepskin rug, and they were starving. They crawled blindly, mewling, seeking a mother who was too weak to nurse them. Bella looked at the mother dog. The animal whined softly, trying to drag herself toward her babies, but her broken leg and exhaustion pinned her down. The mother looked at Bella, a gaze of pure, desperate pleading. "I know," Bella whispered. Bella didn't have puppy formula. She was miles from civilization, in a blizzard that could kill a man in minutes. She had to improvise. She went to her pantry. Goat's milk, an egg yolk, a teaspoon of sugar. She whisked the mixture in a bowl, praying it would be enough. She sat on the floor, cross-legged, the 4 puppies in her lap. She dipped a clean rag into the warm mixture and offered it to the first puppy, the black and white one she had saved first. The puppy latched on, sucking greedily. For the next 6 hours, Bella did not sleep. She became a machine of care. She rotated the puppies, feeding them drop by drop. She massaged the mother's limbs. She kept the fire roaring, feeding it log after log until her woodpile inside was nearly gone. Around 3 a.m., the wind outside changed. The cabin groaned. The temperature dropped even further. The frost began to creep inside, blooming like white mold on the corners of the window panes. Bella shivered. She realized with a jolt that she hadn't taken off her damp clothes. She was freezing. She tried to stand up to get a blanket for herself, but her legs refused to work. A wave of dizziness hit her so hard the room spun. She clutched the arm of her rocking chair, her vision blurred. The pain in her chest wasn't just anxiety anymore. It was a tight, crushing band. Not now, she thought. Please, God, not now. Who will feed them? She slumped back into the chair, the room darkening at the edges. She watched the mother dog who she decided to name Bella lift her head. Bella was watching her. The dog seemed to sense the shift. Bella's eyes grew heavy. The fire was dying down. She knew she had to get up and put a log on, or the cold would take them all by morning. Just one log, but she couldn't move. Her body, pushed past the limits of an octogenarian, was shutting down. She closed her eyes. Just for a second. The last thing she heard was the scratching of claws on the floorboards. Bella woke to pain. It was a sharp, rhythmic stinging on her hand. She gasped, her eyes snapping open. The room was dim. The fire was dead embers. The cold in the room was biting, a physical presence that stung her nose. But she was warm. Something heavy and furry was draped across her legs. Another weight was pressed against her chest. It was Bella, the dog. Despite her broken leg, despite being at death's door hours ago, had dragged herself across the room. She had pulled herself up onto the reclined rocking chair and laid her heavy, fever-hot body directly over Bella's chest. And the stinging? It was Bella, licking Bella's hand, over and over, rough and relentless. She was nipping at Bella's fingers, forcing her to wake up. Bella realized with a terrifying clarity. I was drifting away. She had been slipping into the final sleep, the quiet heart failure that takes the elderly in the night. The dog hadn't just kept her warm. The dog had annoyed her back to life. You, Bella rasped, her voice a dry croak. You stubborn girl. Bella let out a soft woof and licked Bella's face. Suddenly, a loud banging echoed from the front door. Bella! Bella! Are you in there? It was a male voice. Deep, booming. Isaac, her neighbor from 3 miles down the valley. He drove the municipal snowplow. Bella! Bella tried to shout, but her voice was too weak. Bella turned her head toward the door. She filled her lungs and let out a bark. It wasn't the weak whine of yesterday. It was a deep, resonant, protective bark that shook the windows. Woof! Woof! I hear a dog! Isaac shouted from outside. Hang on! The sound of an axe biting into frozen wood followed. Then a kick. The heavy door flew open, letting in a swirl of snow and blinding morning light. Isaac, a giant of a man in a neon orange parka, stood there. He rushed in, his eyes wide. He saw the scene. The old woman slumped in the chair, covered by a massive, injured shepherd, with 4 puppies sleeping in a pile at her feet. My God, Bella, Isaac breathed, kneeling beside her. The power lines are down everywhere. I came to check. I thought I'd find you. He didn't finish the sentence. He thought he would find her frozen. I'm alive, Isaac, Bella whispered, stroking Bella's head. We are all alive. 2 weeks later, the video call on the laptop was grainy, but the face of Dr. Thomas, the veterinarian from the city, was clear. I have the results of the DNA test and the chip scan you asked for, Bella, Dr. Thomas said, adjusting his glasses. This is, well, it's incredible. Bella sat in her rocking chair. Her color was back. Her arm was in a sling. She had torn a ligament dragging the sled, but she was smiling. Bella lay at her feet, her leg in a bright pink cast, nursing 4 fat, healthy puppies. Tell me, Bella said. The dog isn't a stray, Bella. Her name is actually Sasha. She belonged to a search and rescue unit in the capital. She went missing during a training exercise in the mountains 3 weeks ago. They thought she fell into a ravine and died. Bella's hand stilled on Bella's head. A search and rescue dog. But here is the twist, the doctor continued, leaning in. We checked the logs. The day she went missing, she wasn't lost. Her handler had a heart attack on the trail. Sasha ran for help, but she got disoriented in the storm. She didn't abandon him. She was trying to save him. She has been wandering for 3 weeks, pregnant, looking for someone to help. Bella looked down at the dog. The amber eyes looked back, filled with an intelligence that made sense now. "She saved me, Doctor," Bella said softly. My heart stopped, or it slowed down too much that night. She woke me up. She acted as my defibrillator. It seems, Dr. Thomas smiled, that she finally completed her mission. The story of the 80-year-old woman who fought off wolves to save a dog, only to be saved by that same dog, spread like wildfire. Donations poured in enough to fix Bella's roof, buy a lifetime supply of dog food, and even upgrade the heating in her cabin. But Bella didn't care about the fame. She looked out the window. The snow was falling again, soft and gentle this time. She wasn't afraid of the winter anymore. She wasn't alone in the silence. She had Bella. And she had the puppies. The house was full of life, of chaos, of warmth. "Come on, Sasha," Bella said, using the dog's real name for the first time. The dog thumped her tail, the sound echoing in the warm, safe cabin. They say in Yakutia that the cold takes, but sometimes it gives back. Bella Volkov didn't just save a dog that night. She saved herself from a lonely end. Today, Bella and Sasha are inseparable. A testament that even in the freezing dark, love is the strongest survival tool we have. If this story warmed your heart, please hit the like button, share this video to honor everyday heroes, and subscribe for more incredible true stories of survival. Stay warm, everyone.